Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Audrey Shantz and I'm a watercolor artist and a watercolor teacher, and today we are going to paint these carrots. I think they're the cutest. Here's some other color variations you can do. So let's get started. Today we are going to paint these carrots. So here's our supplies. You will need some sort of a round watercolor brush. This one's a Winsor & Newton size 10. Any kind of a pencil will do. You see this one's getting small. And I have a little kneaded eraser. This is the paint set that I'm going to use. And then I have water and a towel, or you can use a paper towel. And then, so I tried to do it in these little ones, and look how squished it is. I didn't think that was good. So if you want to keep it in your 3" by 3" size, go for it. Otherwise, if you wanted to extend, this one here is 3" by 6". And I feel like that's a pretty good size just because this is something that is like tall, you know, it's like a tube. So let's go ahead and get started with our drawing part. So we're going to use our pencil and our kneaded eraser. The thing I want to tell you about drawing is always press lightly with your pencil. Then you can erase really freely, which means you can just know that you can kind of try things and be creative. And then if you don't like it, you can erase it. So the first thing we're going to do is start with this. Do you see how this is like a little, almost a little sad face or a little hill? And we're going to start with that. We want to make sure that we are saving space up top for the leaves or the foliage up there. So I think I'll even make that be, yeah, that'll be the top of the carrot. And you see I'm holding my pencil this way. That might be easier for you. And also just remember, press lightly. Then this is going to be like a tube, and it can be kind of, you know, it can kind of be, you know, jagged on the sides because carrots are organic. They come from the ground. They have to, their roots, they have to get through all that soil. So you see how these edges are kind of curvy? That's totally fine. If you wanted to keep them a little bit more, like this one has a bit of a curve to it and curves in on the other side, that's fine too. And when we get to the bottom here, we want these sort of just sort of random, I mean, they're roots. And something that might help, sometimes I tell people, take your pencil in your hand and roll it, and you'll get more of an interesting line this way. And from there, think of it like a tree, how it's got branches coming from it. So I'll go back, we'll finish it on the front side. You can turn your pencil if you want. And if you don't like what you see, you're just going to erase it. So make sure you're pressing lightly. Once we get to this part, at the top, we want this little tiny little rainbow, and he's right in the center. So a rainbow, or you could think of it as coming up, curving, coming over, curving, and coming down. Just depends. And they're all different, so you can do it any way you want. And if we look at this one here, all these different shapes. This one's skinny, this one's bigger, this one barely has one. So lots of options for that. And let's look at the leaves for a minute. They're coming up and out, up and out. And usually when we have to get leaves and they need to be a certain kind, if you study them, this is what we notice. They come up and out, and then 1, 2, 3. Up and out, 1, 2, 3. And the 3 are always going sort of towards the sunlight or towards the top. So I'm going to come out from this center and curve away. That's 1. I'll get the next one. I'm starting at that center again, but kind of going straighter with it. We'll put the little 3s on at the end. This one's going to come up, curve over. And the more you get them out and away, the easier it is to get those 3 on top. So we'll curve this one bigger. Out and over to the side and tip it up. Now it looks like we've got 2 left. This one's going to come sort of toward diagonal, and it has a little split off. And so does this one. It's going to come towards the center and split one way and the other. This one's got like an extra right there, so I'll stick it on there. And then from here, remember, we're just looking for what did we observe? 1, 2, 3. We're just going to get these little guys however you can fit them. And if you don't like your space to fit them when you see it like this, you can always, like for example, I can just move this one over a little bit, tip it, and then it's easier to get these going straight. So just move things however you want. We can add another one if we want to. And from here, the last thing we want to do with our pencil is just get this curve in. These lines, see these lines are coming like this. They are really what's reinforcing the shape of the carrot and making the carrot look like a tube. So we're going to follow this top line, and you're starting at the edge and coming up and over. You can do it sketchy. I'll show you on the back if this is our tube, right? You could do it sketchy back and forth, or you can do it very orderly. And we're all going to do that different, just like we all have different handwriting. But the point is that we're following this curve, which makes it, you see this, start to look like a tube that you could just go right through, right? So back to here, and however you want to do this, it's just that we're following this curve. So you don't want them to start getting straight like that. Okay. And if you find that you aren't following the curve, just erase it, no big deal. This went on the outside, I'll erase that in a little bit. As it gets smaller, the tube's getting smaller. And I just did it random, leave some spaces maybe where it doesn't have that. You want to look at it and make sure you like it. But honestly, you could do this 5 times and pick your favorite one. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. And that's our sketch. So we're going to start getting our paints ready. I'll move these out of our way for a moment. You can see I've got some really cool carrot colors already mixed on here, which I love. If you have other colors on your palette, you might want to clean them off. But otherwise, if you've got some of these, you can start with those. And then we're going to take our brush and stick it in the water. And you can refresh your puddles if you have any that you to work with like this. Add water, and you see that, you liven it right up. But for today, I'm going to stick with pretty much a regular orange. So you could choose one of your lighter ones or get into darker. For this darker color, I mixed one of my first dark oranges with some burnt sienna. So I'm just going to kind of freshen that up a little bit. And for this first layer, we want it to be really light. So you see this, that's pretty good. So I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to take my brush. Our first layer, I want to show you one example. I think this is maybe one where you can see it, is that we are going to work in 3 layers. The first one is this lightest color, and it goes the furthest over. The second one you can see comes a little bit closer to the highlight, and then this last color stays closest to the edges. So if you haven't noticed it yet, maybe pause it, take a second to study that you see 1, 2, and 3 different purples in here. Our highlight is sort of on the top and a little bit to the right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to use the tip of my brush to run it along this edge. That's funny. I forgot that I wasn't painting with purple for a minute, and this kind of alarmed me. Okay, let's get in closer. All right, so I ran it along the side a little bit, leaning into the belly of my brush, but now I really want to pull out from that wet paint, and I'm following that exact curve that we got. Now my highlight will be somewhere around here. Sorry for that shaking. There we go. My highlight will be about here, so I want to make sure I save white space. I don't want to go too far. And this one can go all the way over to where that highlight will be, and we can kind of fill in the bottom. A little bit more paint, and I'll start on the other side. We do want it to kind of run along that side kind of first, maybe, just so you make sure you get it all filled in. Coming back towards this way, and you see it's already starting to look like a carrot that has some highlight on top, which makes it look like that's where our light source is. So today we're working in glazing, which we don't do a lot of because this isn't actually the way I tend to paint, but it's a good lesson in learning how to do it. So we've got that first layer filled in, and because we're working in glazing, we need to dry it. So go ahead and stop. You can either just let it dry, or you can get a hair dryer, or if you have something like this, I'll be using a little craft gun, and you can dry it, and we'll come right back. It's a little bit funny that you can see I actually went out of the lines, but honestly, it might be a good example of how often that doesn't really matter too much. So I'm going to mix this up. Now what I want to do is get my puddle a little darker. So whatever colors it was that you took to create your lightest color, we're going to go in and just darken it up a hair. Remember, we've got 3 different ones, so don't go with your darkest. That looks good to me. Then I'm going to come here, and I'm going to do the same thing again. And I'm going to get close to it, but I do not want to cover my lightest color, or else why did I put it there, right? So I'm still following that curve, running my brush along that edge, following that curve. kind of a combo of the two, because so it connects it. We don't want it to just look like a whole bunch of lines on the side. They certainly need to be kind of one shape. And so instead of this, you know, we connect them right here. Now I'm trying not to cover up my lightest color, and see it's kind of close to this edge, so it is tricky. So go on the light on the tip of your brush, and that will help you to kind of have these small lines. We'll connect it here, and we've got this done. So that's our second layer. And because we still need to do the top, I think, why don't we go for it? You can grab some sort of a green color, and I've already got a few of them here. I like sort of a yellow green, or even into like with some brownish in it. I don't want it to have any blue to me. That's not gonna just be the look that I want. And we can fill in the little, you know, rainbow topper or top hat. I taught this to some kids, and they actually turned this into a little black top hat, which was the cutest. And we want to take our green, and we're going to run it right along these little leaves. So just light on the tip of your brush, pulling your brush right along them. You want to get a nice skinny line here, skinny as you can. If you need to, you can put your pinky down like this. It's like a little support pinky. Run the brush along here. So if this was very wet, my green would have bled into my orange, and I would have had a little color bleed. And a lot of times I stay away from those. I just want you to know how they happen. But honestly, if we had some green go right into our orange there, I bet you we would probably like it. You might at the moment think, oh no, I messed up. But a lot of times if you come back the next day, you really like it. So you see how right here I didn't go right over my pencil line? And that's fine. So what I'm going to do is just leave it. Later on, after this is fully dry, I can just erase the pencil line, and you'll never know where it was in the first place. Got this all filled in. We need our third layer on our carrot. So now I'm getting into my paints again, and I'll show that as well. Okay, now I want more, and I want it to be darker. So you can just darken up your orange. Another thing you could do is, since orange and blue are opposites on the color wheel, you could add the teeniest bit of blue in there. And do you notice that what that did was just darken up my orange? And okay, zooming back in. It's funny, I have the best lighting in this studio, but you can't actually tell when I do videos. All right, now I'm staying closest to the edge, and really this is going to start to give some dimension, make it look like this is shadowed, right? Because this is our highlight in the light, and hopefully you're going to start to see it all sort of coming together. I didn't have the best day today, but I'm telling you, I did a little, I danced to a little song before I started this because I needed some energy. That song, Dancing with Myself, that's a good one if you need one. But anyway, once I started this and like hanging out with you, it definitely made my day better. So I hope that if you're painting right now and you haven't had a great day, that it's making your day better too. All right, so we got this edge. Now look at it. If there's anything you don't like, you could clean your brush and dry it, which I just did. And like this, I didn't love. I'm just gonna add a tiny bit. My brush has a tiny bit of water on it, and I'm just kind of touching it. What that does is soften up any of these lines that got a little too much. You know, like right here, no, I want that a little softer. And you see, it softened it right up. I do not have, I cleaned my brush and dried it on my towel, so there's barely any on here. Otherwise, we would sort of lose control. So from here, I'm going to show you one more thing. We've got this up top. I am going to grab my paints. I'm going to mix a dark green, but when I do it, I really want to put just the tip of my brush in the water. And that's why it's a little harder to get this paint off right now. I'm going to get a dark green, and I'm going to mix it with a brown. So I have this lovely dark color. And very lightly on the tip of my brush, I'm going to the right of this, give it this little shadow. So I'm just under or to the right of, a little line here, under or to the right of. Now if you wanted to choose your light source to be on the left, no big deal. Sometimes you're just choosing. This is not from a photograph, otherwise you would look in the photograph and see where did that light source come from. You could shadow this whole side. In a minute I'll soften that up. Under to the right of, and you'll notice some of this is a little messy, but it's funny because you'll just find that in the end, some of those little things don't matter. So I just cleaned my brush, dried it on my towel, and once again, I just know there's a tiny bit of water in here, so I'm gonna just, right here, add it. This will give, let me hold it up, a nice soft blend where those greens mix. Softened it right up so that it looks more like it's lighter here, darker here. If I was being accurate, since our highlight is on top, I would probably shadow that side a bit too. And it'll make, so then the light green is on top, kind of like our highlight. From here, okay, a lot of times we'll use a pen and we'll go in and put detail on it. But if you look at this one, actually it's all pencil. And I sort of love that. So you've got options. One of them is to go over it with a pencil and just kind of do these lines again as if it was your ink. And the other option is to do it with pen. The third option is to do nothing at all, right? You're the boss. But I don't know why, but with this one, something about the roots, they're so like sketchy to me that I really enjoy just kind of going over it with a pencil, which is rare. I mean, you wouldn't usually do that, but I personally like it. So I'm just kind of darkening up these edges and going over it here, following that same curve. You can be sketchy or messy about it. It's up to you. And maybe darkening these up now too. Make sure you like it. I want to darken up these sides a little bit. And when you're finished, sign your artwork. You did it. So if you like this one and you wanted to try something like this, try it again. Put a whole bunch of carrots together, try different colors that you'd find at the farmer's market, and just have fun with it. Thanks for hanging out with me today.